Welcome to Make a Difference. He is Phil Martelli. I am Jared Phillips. We've got a big holiday weekend coming up this weekend, the 4th of July. I can only imagine that you'll be down there in Avalon, soaking up the sun with the fam. But thinking about that holiday for just a moment, I mean, you think about the importance of not only the founding of this country, but even more importantly, boiling it down is just the idea and the concept of a country and the words that were put specifically into place to kind of guide us.
Well
Correct?
said. Like semantics, they matter. And there are a lot of examples for all of us in all walks of life with the idea of this: work with people, work for institutions and causes with people. I really get bothered. And I just had an experience with my sons being in town, and everybody will be saying, well, how is it working for your brother? Well, no, they work with each other for VCU basketball. Everybody out there, you work with people for institutions and for causes. How about talk with others as opposed to talking at others? More gets accomplished when we talk with than when we talk at. Look, oversee. Listen, overhear. Look and listen are more dynamic. Anybody can be out there and see and hear. You might hear a buzz on the podcast, but you're not listening to that. The least important word out there is I. The most important word is we. In all group activities, we will move forward. Who cares what I will do? We will move forward. And our guest today will be the epitome of a we type of mentality. Would is more powerful than could. I would do that. Would you like to make $1 million? I would. You could. Everybody could. But would is a full-time commitment. How about these words? I admit that I was wrong. In a group activity, turning to somebody and saying, you did a great job. Or asking another, what do you think? Would you help, please? Those words matter. Thank you. Most powerful statement in the English language. We, the most important word in a group activity. The least important word in a group activity is I. So yes, the 4th of July is a celebration of brilliant men putting pen to paper, or probably back then quill
To parchment.
to parchment. See that use of words there?
Exactly. There's a difference.
It creates a picture.
Mhm.
So all of us need to be very aware. Our words matter, and let's make them matter in the positive. Just like we try to make the Martelli Minute matter. Where can you find that one?
I believe it is at Phil_Martelli every morning at 6:30.
And then another thought came to me about that. If you enjoy the Martelli Minute for the 4th of July, how about if you went out and got one other person? Just turn one other person onto the Martelli Minute. Again, it's on Instagram, Phil_Martelli, 6:30. We're sticking to that. And how about we start off with this one? Read. What does that do? It brings silence. It brings quiet. And read. You for you. Get to, as opposed to have to, is the mindset that provides joy in the work you are doing. I get to do this podcast, not I have to do this podcast. The young lady that's going to join us gets to help others. Doesn't have to. There's a big difference. Prepare for the long haul, where there are no shortcuts to success. You know, there used to be cartoons about get rich quick. Yeah, that doesn't quite work out. So prepare for the long haul, where there are no shortcuts to success. When facing challenging, stressful situations, seeking clarity, remember, slow down. Slow down. Quick is necessary, not fast. So when facing challenging, stressful situations and seeking clarity, remember, slow down. And then the guarantee that you will be a lifelong learner, which we all want to be, you must remain curious. The Martelli Minute, brought to us by statussolutions.com. Statussolutions.com. And again, people ask me repeatedly, what do? They bring safety and safety laws to your local schools. All communities can get involved in helping their schools become compliant and safe for our young people. You find it again, statussolutions.com, statussolutions.com. And the beauty with Status Solutions is, yes, they take a break at the end of the school year, but guess what? They're back at it right now. Statussolutions.com, bringing safety to schools in all areas. And every one of us in each of our communities can become engaged. And now, the guest segment. It's been unbelievable, really. Like if we go over coming up, we're about 10 months in now?
About that, yeah.
Yeah. So 40 weeks, maybe longer, 48 weeks. It's just unbelievable, the people that we've had. So I'm going to take you to a dinner. It was in the fall, maybe early winter. Arlene Gillespie, unbelievable Philadelphian, as connected as anybody in this city. Her husband, Pat, great friend, and he was a giver to all of Philadelphia. Arlene looked me in the eye at this dinner and told me about her friend. And she said to me, my friend has to be on your podcast. I've watched every one of them and I get it. It's not a coaching. It's not a basketball. It's not a sports. You are looking for people who are making a difference. And she said what she admired is that we were interested in making the difference of everyday people, not the biggest of the bigs, but we wanted to make a difference in the lives of everyday Philadelphians, Delaware Valley, and when we spread out for our podcast. Again, I go to this idea, a hero, ordinary person doing extraordinary acts for many times people that they may never meet. Ann O'Callahan has changed Philadelphia for the better through her passion for giving back and paying it forward. The 4th of July, you mentioned this celebration is about the greatness of this country, and it's appropriate for Ann O'Callahan to be our guest at this moment in time for all that she has done for not just Philadelphia, not just the Delaware Valley, but for this entire country in dealing in immigration. And we are so delighted that you have joined Make a Difference. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Well, I mean, I'm very humbled that to even hear that, because I wasn't thinking about making a difference, and I can't tell you how grateful I am, and I'm going to make sure my children see this program. So, thank you very much indeed for those very kind words, because the work I did, certainly I had the idea. There's no question about that. But I had the idea because I'm an immigrant myself. And even though I'm a very fortunate immigrant in that I speak English basically as my basic language, and I also have white skin. That makes a difference when you come to America. I don't like to say it, but I think it has to be acknowledged, and we need to be very aware of it and make sure that we are welcoming everyone. So I'm very grateful to you for highlighting the work of the Welcoming Center, because it is a group effort. Um, I get a lot of the kudos, I guess, because I started it. But believe me, it was certainly not um, an individual effort. I got a
Mhm.
great deal of assistance from a lot of very um, helpful, prominent people whose names are not never mentioned at the Welcoming
Mhm.
Center, and they know who they are. Pat Gillespie being one of them, and Arlene, of course, has been my friend for years. So I'm very grateful to you for highlighting uh, Immigrant Philadelphia.
Well, thank you for what you've done. And Ann, take us through your journey. How did you end up in Philadelphia? And then take it a step further and say, where did the welcoming center concept come from? But your journey is so fascinating. I was online, I went over this and over this, but I just think it would be fascinating for people out there to understand, like, you didn't come with much and now
No,
you're giving much.
no.
That's quite a testament.
Well, I have to tell you, Phil, that and Jared, that I can't even the amount of help I got was extraordinary with the idea that I had, and this idea came to me. It wasn't. I mean, I was fine. I actually came to the United States as I'm a physical therapist by profession. I came here because I wanted to. I was working with brain injured children, and there was an organization um, in Germantown that was putting out a lot of information about all the wonderful things they were doing with children with brain injury. And I was reading this in the journals in Ireland and England. I was actually in England, in London at the time. And I thought, well, we're not doing it. We're working very hard as physical therapists with our children, but we're not curing them like these folks in Philadelphia are. We're helping, no doubt about it, but we're not getting the results that they're talking about. So um, I decided, I was 27, and I decided I would take a break and come to America and go to this place in um, Germantown, Chestnut Hill, actually, and see what they were doing. So I gathered together, begged, borrowed the money, and came, and was very, very surprised to see that the kind of results, the way they had designed the program, uh, when the children went through the program with their families, if they graduated from the program, which took probably, at least 6 months, um, they were considered to be very significantly improved. And my view was that yes, they may have been improved, but they were not fully functional. So I decided that this program was not where I should be. So I left the program. Now, in the meantime, I had met the man who became my husband, and also his brother-in-law, who was Dennis Clark. You may have heard of Dennis, who wrote The Irish in Philadelphia. And I decided that I would leave where I was and go back to Ireland, which I was really required to do. In the meantime, I made the decision to give up my job and come back here because I could see that Sean O'Callaghan was good husband material, and I wasn't meeting that much of it in Ireland at the time. So I came back and got a job, and we ended up going to Boston and getting married because he had taken the Mass Bar exam at the time, got married and came back to Philadelphia some years later. I decided I was doing volunteer work for the Irish diaspora community. And a lot of people who were not Irish would come looking for help. And I found it very, very difficult. I couldn't find the help. I thought, I'm in America, I speak English, I know how to gather information, and yet I couldn't get the information that I needed for folks who didn't speak English. Or it was actually my final catalyst was a lady from China who was desperately trying to get help for her son in the northeast of Philadelphia. And no matter what I did, I couldn't get the help we needed. So I decided, this is America. This is not right. We need to have a centralized resource center in a place like Philadelphia, where there are so many communities and so many immigrants, where they can find the help they need. And I was young enough to think, well, that can't be a problem. This is Philadelphia, this is America, no problem, we'll get this done. And that's how I started the Immigration Resource Center, looking to gather resources. And then that morphed into the Welcoming Center because we figured out that people come here, they want to work, they want jobs. And that's you can't really live well in America without a job, in my view, if you're young and you're an immigrant coming. So that's how we decided to be just very focused on the needs. The needs are help people find jobs, start small businesses. And to do that, we gathered a lot of data. I like good data. I like to know what I'm doing makes sense, especially at that time I was in my 50s. And I could have been getting ready to retire instead of looking for another job. But we gathered the data and we found out that immigrant businesses on all the commercial corridors that we looked at, immigrants had started somewhere between 50 and 70% of the businesses, and nobody was paying any attention to that. So we put together a group of friends, basically friends of mine, people I knew because I'd been here a long time, and we put together the Welcoming Center so that we would gather the resources for people who wanted to start small businesses and find jobs, that this would make it a lot easier for them. And it took off.
Wow.
It was a good idea. A lot of people supported it. We got fantastic support. And it has now gone basically across the country. The idea, a lot of people were thinking, immigrants need help. Yes, they do in a way. But remember, immigrants have crossed oceans to get here. They didn't come from the Northeast down to Center City. They came a long way and gave up a lot and for the promise of America, and really have all they required was the information. So that's how the Welcoming Center started. And then we were funded by, the idea took off with the foundations who funded us, and it became the Welcoming Center because one day one of the larger foundations, we were called the Philadelphia Immigration Resource Center, which was a long name, and there was another resource center also in Pennsylvania Resource Center, and that kept causing issues between funders and information. So they were older than us, so we had to change our name. And I sat there and scratched my head and said, okay, what do? We welcome people. That's what we try to do.
Wow.
And so that became the Welcoming Center. So that's how it started. And We focus. We don't. We do business English only. We
Yes.
don't do English as a second language, because there. And we didn't want to be doing. I didn't want to be going doing repeating what others is helps that were in the community. I didn't want to be taking, going up
Right.
and competing against any of these folks. I wanted to be very certain that the work that we were doing needed to be done and that nobody else was doing it because of the difficulty with funding, etc. So that's how the Welcoming Center started. And the idea actually took off because we're very focused on jobs and small businesses. And we refer people for the other kinds of assistance that they need that's out there.
That's where I was going to go, because with your picture on the Welcoming Center, there's a very simple description right next to your picture, and it says a social service provider. Help our people understand what that means. What does a social service provider do, Ann?
We provide information, and we don't actually provide the assistance as such. We provide a lot of information to all the services that people might find themselves in need of when they come to a new place where they don't have the kind of support that they would have had in their country of origin. Not that everybody has support in their country of origin, because that's why they leave, some people. But there's a lot of people like me who had plenty support where I came from, but wanted to come to America, wanted to see what's here. And although I spoke English and I had a job that I could transfer the ability to this area, I still didn't know, I was not able to get the information to become state certified in Pennsylvania. And it took 3 years of, these were the days, of course, before the internet, of phone calls and talking to people to try to see how I could get permission to sit down and take my state board exam as a physical therapist. Now, in the meantime, I was working. I was teaching at Penn. Now, you would say, you're good enough to teach at Penn, but you're not good enough to sit and take your state boards. Such is the conundrum that people find themselves in. So what I found out eventually, largely through people, my husband and the people he knew, that what I needed to do was get my license by reciprocity. Penn wouldn't look at where I went to school. Pennsylvania wouldn't look at where I went to school if I was able to be licensed in another state. So what we had to do was find a state that Pennsylvania had reciprocity in, and the closest one that I could get was North Carolina. So I went down to North Carolina, applied to take the test, went to Duke University. They let me take the test, which I was perfectly able to do, passed the test, and came back to Pennsylvania and applied for a license by reciprocity. It shouldn't be that difficult, it shouldn't be that difficult, especially for a skill set that I had that Pennsylvania needed. I'd have no trouble getting jobs, but I couldn't get my state license.
And Ann, I've always been big on this, and I don't mean this in a disparaging or disrespectful way to anybody. You had the wherewithal all the way through to take on these hurdles, not brick walls, but you took on these hurdles. How about the young people out there that don't have that wherewithal, whether they don't speak English or they don't have advanced degrees from those are the people that you're making such a huge difference, because they will benefit the region. You know it, but getting the powers to be to know it. Isn't that a challenge?
Oh, it's a huge challenge. And we did some studies on that, and they were very well received. However, it doesn't change the way the laws that kept immigrants from using the skill set that they come here with. Uh, it needs, we need to do a lot more work on it, and hopefully having a program like this brings it to attention of a whole different group of people who will perhaps be in a position to make the changes that are necessary. But we see a lot of people at the Welcoming Centre who come, well, English is sometimes a problem. It's frequently a problem, but they can learn English, most of them. There's some who cannot, but most can. But finding that first job, getting into the American workforce is critical for an awful lot of folks who are, say, not like me, who come. I came to a job, so I had a job before I got here. So for those who come and who need work, jobs, you can't survive in America without a job. It's critical and basic. And so that's why we focused very much on helping people find their first job. Once they get into the American workforce, they often thrive and do extremely well. But getting in can be very, very difficult. The other thing, if you take a look at the businesses and the commercial corridors in our area, and just look at who owns the businesses, I'm telling you, 50 to 70% are immigrant owned. Now, an awful lot of people don't know that or recognize that. I'm not sure I did before we actually did the studies. We actually walked the corridors and went in and asked people where they came from and talked to them. And we had the data. But that's very, very, very important as well. That changes the way people live on these commercial corridors and in the neighborhoods. It improves the neighborhoods. It helps.
No question. So, and I did a little espionage before this interview, and I was told that you were a great communicator, and that certainly hasn't, you haven't fallen short in that area. Where did the gift come from when I make this statement? You have a unique ability to connect and to communicate with kings, industrial kings, political kings, whatever it would be, and the common man. You have a gift. How did that come about?
Well, I grew up in a little town that you probably never heard of called Ballybay in County Monaghan, right in the middle of County Monaghan, 6 miles south of the border. So if you lived when I did, and maybe even today, it's different today, but in those days, you were living close to the border. You had to figure out how to get along with people who were not like you and people who had a different agenda. Now, our agenda in Ballybay was reunification of Ireland. We thought that should be done very easily. Well, as when we were young, we learned by the time we were in our late teens that there was a whole lot more to it and that it wasn't going to happen too easily. But I think that I'm the oldest of 7 children. My father died when I was 18. I was in college and had to come home to help my mother. My father had his own business and my mother was a teacher. So I had to come home and sort of help my mother run my father's business. He was a building contractor and he had a whole lot of jobs that were half finished when he died. He died suddenly. So I learned at the age of 18 or 19, really how many beans make 5, what you have to do to get employment, to talk to people, and to listen, to figure out what's needed. And I think it was that experience that really helped me when I finally did come to America. When I changed, I had spent a number of years in Ballybay working in my father's business and having a pretty difficult time finding myself making a lot of mistakes and not listening carefully, I learned how to listen. And I
Mhm.
think that would be the long answer to your short question.
Wow. So you've been all over this region. Uh, what's the most endearing characteristic of the Philadelphia people?
Oh, I love Philadelphia. Um, I have found Philadelphians to be 99% of the time welcoming and friendly. There's about 1 or 2% that uh, have difficulty, are not too welcoming. But I think that the Philadelphians uh, are a very welcoming people. And we have found that with our work at the Welcoming Center, where we got all kinds of support. Our events, are highly supported, but even by people who will come sometimes and say to me, you know, you should be bringing in more people like you, Anne. That's they mean white people.
Mhm.
That's what they mean. They
That
of course won't say that, but that's the message. And of course, we bring in a lot of the people, and many of the people that we work with and help they're from all over the world, and we don't discriminate. We welcome everyone and try to make sure that they're here legally and that they have the jobs or the support to open their businesses, that they can survive and thrive here. And that's the goal. And we remind ourselves of that 100 times a day.
survive and thrive.
Yes.
Remember, we started this with the idea of words matter. That word matters. Uh, being on the outside, so to speak, where is this region headed with regard to economic growth?
I
Philadelphia's
think
not tapped out.
I think the economic growth, I think we've seen it already. It's with the immigrant community, the immigrant communities. We now have um, when I started the Welcoming Center, we had 9% of the foreign born in 9% of the population in the region was foreign born, 9%. Now it's something like it's almost 15%. And now, of course, I may be biased a little bit, but I do think if you, as we did, looked at these commercial corridors that are the economic backbone of communities, you will find that, as I tell you, 50 to 70% of the businesses in these communities that create the backbone of the community are immigrants. And most of them are here legally. They're not all here legally. I mean,
Mhm.
we all know that. But our work was also to try to, where it was possible at all, to help people become legal, because it's critically important. For me, one of the things that made me become a citizen was I wanted to vote. I'm
Mm.
looking around me at the people that are being elected, and I think, well, he doesn't represent me. So, well, if I want him to represent me, I need to be able to vote, and
Mhm.
that's critically important. And we talk about that a lot at the Welcoming Center. And anybody that's able to be legalized. Now, we don't actually find jobs for people who are not here legally, because that causes all kinds of problems for employers, and we would not do that. But there
That's
are
that's
places
fair.
where people can go, but they're not sent there by us.
That's fair.
And this is obviously, I would say, a very big time hot button issue in this country at the moment. Immigration as a whole, throughout the country. There's a lot of people, younger people, I would say, that are trying to get involved and make a difference in any way that they can, whether that be protesting unjust policies or taking action in any way they can. Is there a way that younger folks can maybe get involved with the Welcoming Center that would allow them to help distribute information and point people in the right direction? Is there any kind of way for the average person like myself to get involved?
Well, yes. Anush Gupta is the executive director there now, and Anush is very open to, like, we like to have people who will coach English, like English speakers, people who are learning English who come to us need to be able to practice. That's one of the things that we support, and there are other kinds of activities to be supportive of. Our we kind of don't get into uh, we stay very focused on the economic issues because it's so important to thrive in the United States is to have some sort of solid economic base. But to be able to work uh, in the area, your language skills are important. So we do a lot of work with volunteers. You know, Let's Talk Philly, and having business English and helping people that way. That's the kind of thing that the volunteers at the Welcoming Center can do, and it's very important. It's very important. We all need jobs are important. People need to be able to work to support their families, and they want to, and that's a critical piece of what our volunteers and everyone can do.
And I'd like you to take a picture the next time that an immigrant comes in and wants to discuss English, and they get involved in what you just said. Let's talk Philly, because that's a different.
That's a
That's like
different
yeah,
organization.
that's a different. Let's talk Philly is a different vocabulary oftentimes. And this is way beyond uh, what we anticipated. I thank Arlene. I thank Arlene, and I thank Arlene. And then I put it out to all of the people watching. If you have let us know about the people in our community, in our region, who are making a difference. We want to highlight them. And Ann, we end every guest segment with this question: who's made a difference in your life?
Oh gosh. Well, Dennis Clark. When I came to Philadelphia to do the course I was doing, and that was because I was a physical therapist and I wanted to work with brain injured children. I wanted to get this additional training that I believed that we weren't getting. So I came here and I met Dennis and Josie Clark. And Dennis Clark, who wrote The Irish in Philadelphia, it was published right around the time I arrived, and I read it. And they were so kind and supportive, and opened all kinds of doors for me when I decided to start the Welcoming Center. The unions, Pat Gillespie,
Mm,
um,
soul of the earth right
couldn't
there.
have been more helpful. Couldn't have been more helpful. And you know, he wasn't always entirely delighted because we were finding people jobs that sometimes he wanted his people to get. But he understood the
He wasn't a teddy
importance.
bear, Ann. He wasn't a teddy bear. You could say it.
No, he wasn't a teddy bear, but he was a teddy bear to me. He supported us and he came to our meetings. And I can tell you this, that our board meetings, when Pat arrived and Pat came, our board meetings, we got stuff done
Mm-hmm.
because that was one of his big skill sets. He could break through all kinds of nonsense, as you probably know.
Amen.
So he couldn't have been more helpful. The unions were very, very helpful to us. So not just Pat, but AFL-CIO, also very, very helpful. They gave us space to open our office. They gave us an office on 22nd Street. I mean, whoever heard of that? Now, mind you, as soon as we got money coming in, they knew it and they charged us. But still, it allowed us a space to start, and I'm eternally grateful to the unions who were. We wouldn't have survived and done as well as we did without them.
Well, Jarrett, and Thank you. You have blessed, make a difference. And there it is. That's what we've been talking about since we started this 10 months ago, that each of us has an opportunity. We have to see it, and then we have to seize it. And
Yes.
here's an example of seeing it and seizing it. And we're going to get this message out. And we hope that the Welcoming Center gets to a point where you're turning away people that want to help,
Well,
because what you've done is God's work. Thank you.
well, thank you very much. Thank you for the opportunity. And I'm very, very grateful to have this opportunity. So,
Have-
all
have a-
good.
Have a wonderful summer.
Thank you.
so much. Appreciate you.
I know. You too.
People that speak with passion, you don't have to see them. Didn't you just feel it? Like life's work.
1,000%.
Like this is life's work.
It's unbelievable, the career and the life that she has dedicated to helping people just like herself, which, that's what it stems from, but then it turns to service for others, which is just, it's a beautiful thing.
Come on, make a difference. Come on, everybody out there, let's make a difference.
I think it would be fantastic to see them get some more volunteers, helping these immigrants who are trying to grow Philadelphia, bolster the economy of Philadelphia, but they need the help to get where they want to be, to start a business that could be your next favorite small business in the city. I mean, that's like really, I would say that the start of it, the root of it all.
We're going to connect dots. We're going to connect dots because think about it. One of our most memorable sessions was at 17th and Girard with 3 kids set up by the St. Joe Prep Community Service. Katie has been a real supporter of Loaves and Fishes Project. She's done everything. How about if we make her aware of the Welcoming Center? And if they're on 22nd Street, 17th Street to 22nd Street, kids going in there and doing just what she said, interviewing and helping people with their English skills. We may have some synergy here, but that'll be for in the next couple of weeks. Right now, we have to review where I've been.
Where have you been this week? Busy guy, huh?
No, not as much as you think.
Well,
Terrific
around the
call.
holidays.
Just a terrific call with Coaches versus Cancer and the 6 representatives of the Philadelphia Big 5 coaching staffs. Fran Dunphy was on there. Michael Steinberg, who will be taking over as the chairman, and kind of moving forward. And there was an energy there. There was an excitement, and Kelly and her crew at the American Cancer Society got a little stale. Coaches versus Cancer got a little stale, but back with a little bit more vim and vigor this coming year. Preseason luncheon will be at the PYB Center, the 6-man center. The breakfast at the end of the basketball season will be somewhere in South Philadelphia. Hopefully, and I don't know if we made a deal yet, but the center now, so I don't even know what the name is now anymore down in South Philly.
Wells Fargo?
But it changed names.
Yeah, it's the Xfinity Arena now, or
I'm not sure. The other thing that I did is I've done a lot of prep for our summer podcast. I'm going to put out one more issue to people. We would love to get those that are making a difference. We have a pretty good feel for July and August, and I'm doing a lot of prep and making sure that we're all lined up to run this all the way through. And we're going to get to the point where it's going to be the 1-year anniversary. We want to do a little bit basketball. We want to do a little bit of baseball, a little bit of football. We want to reach back to our schools. What's it like in August for a school starting out? And then probably the most important stretch, this stretch right now is giving me family opportunities, whether it's those guys in Richmond, Jimmy moving into a house, how his family handled that, end of school for Philip's family, both of them out recruiting and building up the schedule for for VCU. So a little bit lighter. And people laughed at me the other day, and somebody said, can you do this? And I'm like, yeah, I could do this. And it was a podcast at another time, and they were interested. So what else do you do? And I said, well, that's funny because I probably do too much, but this is more speed limit stuff.
Yeah.
And even where I'm going is going to be speed limit stuff.
Well, I was gonna say, God forbid you have a little downtime
Just a little.
in July,
Just
around the holidays.
Yeah.
I mean, what's the beach house in Avalon for if you're not getting down there a little bit?
And then where I'm going, the Philadelphia Coaching Academy is picking up a lot of steam. Got to give a shout out to my man Ernie Gallagher, who's in charge of CYO basketball. Mike Doyle is going to handle the high school coaches who are going to help out. Jay DeFrucio is going to incorporate the high school scene, the high school hosting us for some of these events. Jimmy Lynch from the Philadelphia School District. This Philadelphia Coaching Academy is going to come off 5 3-hour sessions. Come to one. We're going to teach you how to do drills that will allow you to run an effective practice for 5th and 6th grade, 7th and 8th grade, boys, girls. We are really focusing on middle school basketball coaching. 3 hours, teach you to teach them. And therefore, we'll make the game better, and we'll make it more comfortable for parents and for coaches. Because always remember, no one wants to follow someone that doesn't know where they're going. If you walk in for an hour practice and you don't have a plan, you don't know where you're going. And things are going to happen then. We're going to give you those plans. So the Philadelphia Coaching Academy is taking up a lot of my time in the next stretch of weeks. We're going to do a VCU Zoom with the staff. What are we going to focus on? Long-term planning. Here's the bottom line. Must win games. But as you're winning games, you cannot allow things that could be exciting for the program to slip and say, oh, I wish we had done that. How do they want to handle alumni? Is there an alumni event coming up? Is there a season ticket holder event where they can meet this new team? All of those are in the planning session, and we're going to continue to do a Zoom, and then we're going to go down and put the proverbial boots on the ground, and I want to be down there to watch and be excited about all that they're doing. And then taking a trip to the Poconos for a trip to Rob Kennedy's basketball camp. I always enjoy that. It's one of the first places that I worked basketball camp. I worked basketball camp at Kathy Rush, and then got an opportunity at the end of that summer to work at the Pocono Invitational Camp. They run a camp for Bob Hurley, who is the best basketball coach in America. No gender, no ages, no whatever. Bob Hurley is the best basketball coach in America. And then I want to just dabble back and see some people and connect with some people. But we do want to make a special mention. John DeSangro was John Chaney's main man. Yes, Jim Maloney, and yes, Dean Demopoulos, and yes, Dan Leibowitz, and yes, those remarkable players. But John Chaney's program and John Chaney's career in leading him to the Naismith Hall of Fame, John DeSangro had every bit to do with that. He was basketball operations, but he was so much more. And when Coach retired at Temple, John went to work for Prism and for some of these other networks that broadcast all of our professional sports. John DeSangro passed away. Our thoughts and our prayers go out to his family, his loved ones, to everybody involved. This is another one of those special people that won't be replaced, that had the fabric of Philadelphia basketball. So to everyone, prayers and thoughts. Rest in peace, John.
I just have to add a little wrinkle to that. John's nephew, Rocco, a good friend of mine, went to Temple with, of Fox 45 in Baltimore and the Ryan Ripken Show fame. A good buddy of mine. I reached out to him, but just our condolences, of course, to the entire DeSangro family. A wonderful, wonderful family.
It's just remarkable. And the stories that he never told, that will never be told, about John Chaney. John DeSangro was one of a kind.
Again, our condolences to the DeSangro family. A sad passing, and hoping that family is finding a way to heal a crew that's pretty close to me, and someone who made a mark in the Philadelphia basketball community for sure.
And never made a bucket. There's a lot of them out there, Jared. There's a lot of them out there.
Speaking of somebody who I would say had quite a few buckets in the Philadelphia basketball
Just a few.
Community, we're not going to drop just yet who we got next week, right?
We're not dropping it yet.
Yeah, that's a surprise.
No, we're not dropping it yet. But I'll say this. As you're watching fireworks and the star power and the all that comes with fireworks, tune in next week, because you will be in awe of the star power that this firework provided and continues to provide to the Philadelphia area.
Yeah, I think that this is going to be an episode that a lot of folks have been waiting on for a little while. So excited to reveal that one, but we're not going to do that just yet. We're keeping it under wraps. Our thanks again to Ann O'Callahan with the Welcoming Center for New Pennsylvanians. Incredible work that she does for immigrants in the Philadelphia community that are looking to get moving in terms of starting a business and just ingrain themselves in the Philadelphia community and economy. She has been doing work, really life-changing, difference-making work in Philadelphia for a long, long time. So we thank her once again for joining us. And if you are looking to make I would hopefully make a life-changing difference for folks with Phil here, you can head on over to pnjmakeadifference.com. We are at Make a Difference Pod on Instagram, at TikTok, and YouTube, at Make a Diff Pod on X. Make a Difference with Phil Martelli on Facebook. If you are watching on YouTube, feel free to like and subscribe. If you are listening on Spotify or Apple or wherever you listen to your podcast, feel free to give us a 5-star rating. If you're looking for that Martelli Minute, it is Phil_Martelli on Instagram every morning at 6:30 in the morning. Phil, I'm going to leave us with this, as we have been. Was it one run in 3 games? And then they come back with 13?
It's an unusual team that we're hoping for an unusual result. This pitching, I wish that either one of your grandfathers, if not both, if we could get their perspective. They want to send us a sign about their perspective on this pitching staff. This is historical. The pitching staff, and some of the hitting is historically on the other side, and we're not going to talk about that right now. Game and a half up, speeding to the All-Star break and the trade deadline.
And they're getting the big man back.
Big man is back, and we're not talking Clarence Clemens and the E Street Band. Oh, you like that cross reference?
That's a good one. Yeah, come on, I'm a big Springsteen guy. Come on, I'll take a Springsteen reference anytime I can get Harper back in the lineup. That should mean good things.
I hope so. Everybody, please be safe. Watch out for one another, and continue to make a difference.
Happy 4th of July.